Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the secret tea party. Today with me, I have.
I,
Yeah?
yeah.
Kia ora, it's Horse Fry.
Too much energy in that or something. I don't know.
Was that your intro? I couldn't tell if you were just saying, yeah.
I don't know.
What a great way to kick off the episode.
Alright, I have no idea what's going on anymore. I'm completely off guard for the first second.
Okay, well, we have Aya and Horse Fry, clearly. And I'll have tears in my eyes.
Your friendly neighborhood Aya. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aya.
Okay. Wholly unprepared to record. I'm the one who just woke up. What's with this nonsense? Anyway, we're here bringing you the elusive Haruhi secret tea party, which I've been wanting to do for months now. Very excited. I think a good way to go about this is kind of like let everyone know where each of us are in the Haruhi series. I, for one, have read all the light novels. I'm all caught up on all things Haruhi. The Haruhi lore master, if you will.
Our Haruhi GM for our
Yeah.
Haruhi campaign. Oh, what a nightmare. I have read up to the end of the 7th novel. So I have a little bit more knowledge than the average anime viewer, but I am also not as caught up as Liv.
And I've only watched the anime, the first 2 seasons, and the movie.
Yeah, we got a wide range of experiences here. How we're gonna go about this is basically we're gonna be mostly talking about the anime for a good while, and then when we start getting into like novel spoilers that aren't just like, oh, here's a fun fact of like what they changed from like anime to novel, we'll let you know. So you can avoid that if you want to get into reading the Haruhi novels yourself, which you should because they're really good, and there's a lot more of them than what you may think. There a lot happens post anime and post disappearance that is really cool and really good.
Absolutely.
Like some of my favorite arcs are post disappearance, and that's saying something because disappearance is really good.
He's holy.
Holy moly, indeed. But putting Haruhi's future aside, let's stick with the anime. So you like hopped in like in the middle of us watching the anime, right?
I hopped in for the first episode, and then I skipped like 2 episodes, and then I was like, wait a minute, it's Haruhi. I don't need to watch this every episode sequentially. And so I just hopped back in at I think it was actually like Someday in the Rain, actually.
So basically, one day when we finished recording a podcast, I was talking about Haruhi, and I ended up streaming like all of Haruhi to Horse Fry in almost a night. Like we had to split it up between 2 days, and then I like joined for the first episode, and then came off, joined back in like the middle of Someday in the Rain, and immediately went into episode 4. Which is the Ryoko brings out a knife and tries to kill Kyon episode.
Honestly, broadcast order W, because like you can kind of do that, and you don't miss the part where they explain what the hell is going on.
Yeah, because I mean, like I feel like that's a kind of big bonus with broadcast order, because you can kind of watch it in any order if you really think about it. I'm pretty sure there's a math equation for that. Like someone on like 4chan or a Reddit somewhere like solved like a huge mathematical problem by trying to figure out how like many ways you could watch Haruhi until you like reached like every single possible order you could watch Haruhi.
Yeah, there's like a Wikipedia page,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, the Haruhi.
I believe it's called the Haruhi problem now.
Yeah, the Haruhi
Actual,
problem.
Like, mathematics.
It's really
Awesome.
cool.
4chan bails math out of the gutter.
I would say, and I think all of us are in agreement here that broadcast order is the right way to watch Haruhi. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I cannot imagine watching it in chronological order after having watched broadcast. Like, I mean, I can imagine it after, but
Yeah.
it is by far the best first-time viewing experience. I would only recommend like chronological order as like a repeat watch, like for, I don't know, seeing the events like all the way through. But I think the choice to split up the episodes and like shake them around a little bit, I say, was like honestly one of the most iconic things about the first season. Although it doesn't really happen as much in the second.
It doesn't happen at all in the second.
It is very on brand, I think. I could see somebody watching it in chronological order and then like jumping into discourse, and someone's like, "Yeah, broadcast order is so much better," and being like, "What?" And then going to look at the broadcast order and being like, "What? Why would you watch it like this?" I can get that. I think if I'd watched it in chronological order, I'd be like way more skeptical.
Yeah, no, totally.
And like part of the reason why I like broadcast order, but probably mostly because that's how I watched it first, and I watched it with friends who like, and Lerth did all the maths, or not really maths, but Lerth had the list up on their end, so like I didn't have to do any of the like, all right, which episode do I watch now? Because it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to like, unless you find like, I'm sure there's someone who's done like a dedicated playlist somewhere on some site, but like I think we were just watching it on like
surely
perfectly legal legit servers of.
We're watching it on Crunchyroll.
Oh, were we? Okay, well, all right, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it up on the
that's where we watched
Funimation, which is where it is, and
Funimation.
I did have a Funimation subscription for the longest time solely so I could watch Haruhi.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. There's nothing else I wanted on Funimation.
It is now on Crunchyroll because Funimation isn't real. But
yeah.
But yeah, so on Crunchyroll, which is where we watched it, it's all in chronological order. There isn't like a broadcast order.
Which
like
is kind of lame of
playlist.
them. I think they're cowards.
Absolutely it is. They are cowards.
They should have like a
people
switch.
Won't understand this high art.
Like you could just like choose like broadcast order or like chronological order instead of season 1 and season 2. I think that's how it should be done.
Video quality, language, chronological or broadcast. That's what the settings menu looks like.
Exactly. I know there are a lot of people out there who are confused about like why broadcast order even exists that way. And aside from being like a really good way to immerse yourself and like the absolute like befuddlement and confusion of Kyon, of just like, what is going on? I'm so lost. This is crazy. Is any of this real? It's also a way to properly pace out the first season, since essentially when it was first coming out, they were going to adapt Melancholy, and then like a few books after. But the thing is, in the books after Melancholy, not a whole lot fucking happens of any interest, including like aside from Psy, but that got adapted later into season 2 because like they thought that the end of Melancholy was such like a good season finale, but they couldn't like, you know, just do Melancholy because that would have only been 6 episodes.
Couldn't stretch out 5 episodes.
Yeah, so
do a 13 episode season. That would make it a bad anime.
It would. But you can't just like, you know, like animate Melancholy and then like go into a new arc. So they took a bunch of like the short stories from like the future novels that wouldn't like spoil any like major events going forward. And they just kind of like started dispersing them throughout the anime. So we also got more time with like the characters and got to kind of like see like interesting like foreshadowing of like what they are instead of like getting it all exposition dumped to us, because let's be honest, Melancholy is just like a long like exposition dump of like, oh, this person joins the club and now I learn that she's an alien and she'll give me her whole spiel about Haruhi. And then we go to the park and then Mikuru's like, guess what, Kyon, I am a time traveler. And then she exposition dumps to me about how time travel works and I think she's really pretty. And then I go talk to Koizumi and I'm like, Koizumi, you have something you want to tell me, don't you? And then Koizumi exposition dumps, which is his entire character. And then he starts rambling on about being an Esper and Haruhi being God, and Kyon's like, what the fuck? And then each of them individually prove that they are the things they say they are. And Kyon's like, shit, I guess I believe everyone now. And then you have like the climax and like the end of the book.
Yeah.
And that would just be a slog to sit through.
Here's my thing of broadcast order is always going to be better. Is the thing is that you get just enough exposition dump in The Adventures of Mikuru Asahina episode 0.
Yes.
The crappy high school movie they make. Which is high fiction, but is also like a plot synopsis for the entire show, if you look at it like anywhere below the surface.
Yeah, I have theories on that shit.
And we could get into that later in the theory section. But, like, you gather all the information you really need from that of, like, Mikuru is a time traveler, Yuki is an alien, asterisk, maybe not an evil witch, maybe doesn't have a familiar.
Kyon does describe her alien stuff as magic multiple times,
He
so,
does,
to be
he
fair.
does.
Her familiar is Ryoko.
No, that's Haruhi-chan.
I mean, there's a talking cat. There's a talking cat in the first episode, and you don't see it again for like
until
like,
season
like,
2.
When is the cat gonna start talking? Yeah.
Because imagine being a Haruhi fan when it's coming out, and you see this talking cat, and you refuse to read the novels, so you want to watch the anime, and this talking cat appears in the first episode of the anime,
Yeah.
and then 3 years later, you get Bamboo Leaf Rhapsody, Endless 8.
The Endless
And then
Eight.
the Psy arc happens, and the cat appears in the very last episode of Psy, and you're like, oh, that's where the cat came from.
The biggest payoff in Haruhi is apparently Shamisen the cat. By the way, I didn't know this when I first watched the episode. I think Horsefry is the one who said that Shamisen is made from cat guts. So Haruhi is very morbid for naming the cat that, but we're getting
It's like
ahead
naming
of
your horse
ourselves.
glue.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to say it's quite a popular like kind of joke name for a cat, but that might be because of Haruhi.
It might be because
I
of
feel like
Haruhi.
I feel like I've
Maybe.
seen it before. I couldn't give you any examples, but like
Yeah. I just love Kyon's reaction. She's like, I'm gonna call you Shamisen. And Kyon's like, wait! What?
Wait, Shamisen.
I mean, I think it's like I think the lyre, like Lyre, like ancient Rome, instrument was
Yeah.
also made with cat. Like apparently, cat guts are just very musical. I've got my cat right next to me while I say this. He's just sleeping peacefully, perfectly unaware.
Doesn't know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dang, I guess I'll be right back. I need to go get a cat.
This fuels some of my theories. Oh, I'll save my theories for later, though. By the way, audience, Haruhi theorizing is very real, and it's just as deep as Umineko sometimes.
Haruhi theorizing
Yeah.
like made me go back into the Umineko brain set, and like brain set. Anyway,
Yeah, brain set.
brain set. It's not a mindset, but legitimately, like as soon as I started reading the novels, like my brain started exploding and expanding, and like trying to connect everything of all the foreshadowing that hasn't been paid off
Like,
yet.
yeah.
Because that happens a lot.
Like, Hisuki Koizumi lives rent-free in my head, in my
Hitsuki
walls,
Koizumi.
Like,
Taking permanent residence in my brain. I hate this man.
It is just like Umineko in the way that, like, they don't give you quite enough to ever be quite satisfied with your theory. Like, any Umineko theory, and you're like, man, I really like this theory, and then there's just something wrong. And like, that goes for, like, even the official explanation. There's, like, things that, like, aren't quite right, and they niggle you until you, like, finally come out with, like, an addendum to your theory that, like, accounts for this, like, one weird, like, out-of-place thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a whole like mental journey you have to go through. You gotta unravel yourself. You gotta claw your way out of the closed room. I mean, if we do want to talk about the adventures of Mikuru Asakina, episode 00, I do have like a lot of weird thoughts on it, because I think there's a lot of interesting things about it, and for those of you who are anime onlys, I will say that scene at the end of Sai where like Kyon like spills the beans to Haruhi and she doesn't believe him is actually supposed to take place right at the end of Melancholy. And
Yeah.
I always or at least most of the time I will decide to, when I'm watching with friends, to go to the very end of Sai and show them that clip after we finish Melancholy before going in, because I feel like the way they put it in there, as much as Haruhi Broadcast Order has my heart, it really confuses like the whole point, and I feel like a lot of people don't catch that detail. I mean, they're in the same outfits and they're at the same like location and like stuff, so you can like kind of pick it up. But I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, Kyon told her because of the movie. But it's like, no, she made the movie after Kyon told her.
Oh,
which
right,
is why
yeah,
Kyon's
yeah.
like, is this my fault?
And the answer is yes. The answer
Yeah.
is certainly yes.
It actually makes a lot
It
of
was
sense.
definitely
yeah.
his
All
fault.
Kyon's fault.
I can't help but think she made it to make fun of him. She's like, look at this
I
stupid
am on
thing
board
Kyon
with
came
that
up
theory.
with.
I watched the Adventures of Mikuru Asahina episode 0. You have to say the full title every time.
You do.
To like before I got into the recording today, like to try and like be a little bit closer to the Haruhi mindset. And I like just realized you can pick up so much about the characters from their crappy acting.
Oh yeah, like obviously like Mikuru just like anxious and she's always like looking off to the side and like
But
pausing
she's
and
trying
like
way harder.
she's
than she
trying
needs
so
to be.
hard though. Like
Like-
she really wants to do a good job. She's just bad at it. And then Yuki obviously is not attempting to act at all. She's just spitting out her lines. Except for one instance, which I'll touch upon in a minute.
Definitely.
And then obviously Itsuki is just like kind of like acting like himself. And I think he's like very purposely acting bad, because we know he is an excellent liar and good at like smoothly like covering things over. So I really think he's like acting the way he is to cover up the fact that he's a good actor by acting like he's a bad actor.
He's literally a theater kid in the school festival. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Kyon does mention that he is like kind of smiling the whole time, and he's like acting like he's playing himself rather than like a character. But I think that also ties into my theories about Rosencrantz and Guildenstein. They're dead.
Just like the first mention that the audience have ever heard of this
Guildenstein.
theory, but never mind.
Yeah. We'll get into that.
which were referred to like half an hour ago as Itsuki killed Einstein?
No. We'll get into Itsuki's play later, because I think that says a lot about the character as well as like the agency / organization.
Agency.
Sai is so interesting to me, because like I don't feel like Haruhi's casting actually exactly lines up with like who the characters are like playing, aka themselves. Because it seems to me like Itsuki is playing Haruhi, or Kyon, one of the two. Because the whole deal is like he has powers he is unaware of while all of this shit is happening in the background. And like he like starts like getting slowly involved in it and like coming up like finding out stuff and like being confused, and then like by the end something awakens in him, which we haven't seen any like awakening from like Kyon or yet, or like any like self-awareness from Haruhi yet. But I think the role is interesting, and I think what is also interesting is the scene with Yuki in the window, where she's like talking about like the key and stuff, and like, you know, like how he is like the key needed to like unlock the door, and like there's lots of stuff he doesn't understand yet. Kyon mentions in the novel that Yuki is looking at him, the cameraman, when she's saying that, and that this is all improv.
Yeah, none of this is in the. I highly doubt
Yeah.
they even got a script. Honestly, I feel like they got a script like the
Yeah,
day
but like
of.
it's not what she was supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
The line that makes me think it's not that Itsuki's playing a Haruhi, and that he is instead playing Kyon, is the one that lives in my brain 24/7. That is like right before the talk about the key that opens the door, and when that door opens, the thing that will change is anyway, is that he
Yeah.
says that he, well, no, in this scene it would be I, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me. I feel like it's kind of I feel like it's a fusion of the two, because I feel like
Yeah.
Kyon is the key to Haruhi's power, you know?
I think
that's what
these
it's meant to
different
mean.
groups are not really respecting their individuality, and so they see Kyon and Haruhi as a package deal. And Kyon also
Yeah.
sees like Kyon and Haruhi as a package deal because she's not gonna let him get away.
And we know, obviously, from Sai that, like, Itsuki is like, hey, you know, like, Vikuru's, like, manipulating you because she knows that you are the key to manipulating Haruhi, because you're the only person Haruhi listens to. So we know that Kyon is, like, the real asset that they're after, because if you have Kyon, you have Haruhi, basically.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And here comes my extra theory that I think that in the movie Itsuki is supposed to be represented by shamisen.
What?
What?
Because so listen up. Shamisen shows up partway through the movie, disconnected from everyone else. He just appears, kind of like how Itsuki just transferred into school. He wasn't there from the start. And it's Shamisen, the cat, the actual cat personality. What does he do? He loves to talk randomly about philosophy. And just like random bullshit that no one cares about, like, oh, like two people can have a conversation, but are they really communicating if they're like not like interpreting each other's words correctly? Two people can be talking but not actually talking, if you know that. And that's something Itsuki would definitely talk about.
It is.
Yeah. And
I
we
feel a little
know
bit like that right now. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, this Horse Fry is a good stand-in for the average audience member here, who is not completely brain rotted.
So, Itsuki has constantly had a theme of being separated from the other characters. He transferred in late. He's never, like, really, like, involved in their plans. Like, he's always in the sidelines and just, like, kind of pokes in to give exposition. But he's always, like, there, you know? He's, like, a present, like, person who, like, does, like, a lot of work in the background. And similar to how Itsuki has, like, his role in the main story, shamisen shows up partway through the movie and like give advice to like Yuki and stuff, and like loves to talk even when he's not supposed to, and loves talking about philosophy, which is something Itsuki's very interested in.
Right.
And you can kind of draw a lot of parallels between shamisen and Itsuki in that way.
But they are both in the movie.
And
so like, I don't understand how.
Yes.
yeah, but Itsuki is supposed to be playing Kyon Haruhi fusion, basically, but mostly Kyon.
when you said that people aren't being played by themselves, and you said that Itsuki is a transfer student, for some reason the theory that my brain tried to yes and into existence is that Yuki is actually playing Izumi.
Well, little did you know that that is also part of this theory, because who's always sitting on Yuki's shoulder? It's Shamisen. And also, she's an alien witch. She's an alien who does who has magical abilities. You know who also has magical abilities? Itsuki has magical abilities.
I think you've lost me on this theory.
No. I don't think Yuki's like actually supposed to be Itsuki, but you know the fact she does transfer into school later is interesting. But I do think that it is supposed to hint towards a greater alliance between the organization and the data overlord. Yeah, the TFEIs, because first of all, we know Itsuki is in contact with other TFEIs due to earlier in Sai when he's like, yeah, we even have like an acronym for him, and she's like very different from other ones, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't know the lengths of that connection.
Yeah, we don't. I think we might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
We are getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
We might need to check in. First, try. Do we need to explain a few things? Like, are we? I feel like
I've just been sitting here. I've been sitting here thinking about how like Aya like did homework before like recording. And I'm like, fuck, I should have done that. There's like basic plot elements where I'm still like. I only just twigged that like you're still talking about the movie inside the series and not talking about like the movie.
Yeah.
I was like trying to remember when Shamisen shows up in Disappearance. I was like, I don't think he does, but I don't want to say that.
He does.
He just doesn't talk.
Yeah, he's just killing the cat.
It's like, I don't even mind if the cat starts talking again. I just want to see something familiar. Like,
Oh, that's right. He does say
maybe
that.
we should try like diving into theories once we've like actually.
Fully
caught the audience back up on like a bunch of different things.
We rewind. We rewind.
We rewind. We reel it back in for now. This is how every time Lurf and I talk, it goes. Like,
yeah.
It eventually devolves into nonsense that makes sense only to those blessed with eldritch knowledge. Like,
Okay, you have ingested so much Haruhi.
I just thought like when you and me were joking, Aya, about like editing this video into broadcast order and like and you just like good idea, and you've like been trying to like do that. We'll just do the recording in broadcast order instead of editing it afterwards.
No, this has been a continuous line, but the line looks like it draws a magic sigil that will summon Baphomet through the gates of hell or something. I don't know.
Okay. Winding back to general knowledge.
Talk about like melancholy, like
yeah, I mean
the first novel, like first major arc, except not really.
First major arc. I mean, say this: the Haruhi anime does a pretty good job at adapting most things, except for one really big thing. But we'll get to that later.
Oh, for sure we will. Believe you me.
So like,
I am excited to rant about this. Of all places.
I actually have no idea.
Me too.
You've got me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, well,
I might have shielded you from it.
I might have shielded you from it. We may not have watched those episodes because I think you mentioned like reading the novels, and like when I was with Aya, I was like, okay, if you're reading the novels, read them first up to this arc, and then come back to me, and then we'll watch the episodes.
I want to make it clear, by the way, to the audience that are like, oh, well, I guess, like, I got into this at some point. So basically, Liv said that they, like, streamed all of it. We were up until, like, 8 a.m. watching Haruhi. We watched The Endless Eight in one sitting. We watched Disappearance. We watched everything. And by the time we were about to start Disappearance, I went on Amazon and I bought every novel. I was in. Like...
I was so
I've
excited.
already seen. Like...
Because there are slight differences, and you gotta know them.
You gotta know them, and you also gotta know that these things aren't different in the light novels, just for continuity and like confidence, I guess.
Oh
But
no, I just remembered another one of my theories that Melancholy and Sai put forward. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Put a pin in that one.
Put a pin in that one. Put a pin in that one. I'm writing it down so I don't forget because it's my most important
Ooh.
theory.
Ooh, all right. But that aside, I think Melancholy is a surprisingly good introduction in broadcast order, given that it's barely an introduction at all.
Yeah.
Because half of Melancholy happens past the halfway point. But the effect that that creates for the viewer, especially first-time viewers, is that you'll see all this, like, nonsense about closed space and Itsuki's agency and things like that. And then you'll get, like, 11 or 10 episodes in, and then you'll finally get the lore dump about what the heck is going on with Itsuki in, I think, Melancholy 4?
Melancholy 5, actually.
Melancholy 5, okay.
Yeah. 4 is the
so
knife.
It should be, like, 12 episodes in, or something like that. And so after all of this, like, out-of-ordered, jumbled-up, like, constant chaos that's been really enjoyable, but hasn't been that decipherable, although you've been picking up crumbs here and there, you finally get a plot dump to tie everything together and be like, I understand now. I get what's going on. Because
yeah, like,
I think,
the pieces are put together.
yeah, because I think, like, episode 3 or something is the baseball game.
Yeah, episode 3 or 4, I believe. Yeah, it's 3. It's 3.
Yeah, and you watch, like, you watch freaking Haruhi and Kyon meet, you watch the formation of the club, you watch Haruhi, like, kidnap Mikuru, you watch Nagato be in the room already, and then you cut.
And suddenly there's a guy there.
And suddenly there's a guy there, and he's
Much
talking
like
about
Shamisen.
how this baseball game will decide the fate of the world.
One of my
you have
favorite
no idea
things.
what's happening, and there's magic, and
The baseball episode is my favorite thing to, like, watch people react to blind in broadcast order, because, like, things are, like, chronologically making sense up until then, and you get this, like, little cliffhanger with, like, Yuki being like, hey, come over, like, I have something to, like, explain, or whatever. And, like, you know, like, they go to the apartment, and, like, she begins to explain, and it's cut off. And then you go into the baseball episode, it's like, oh shit, silly baseball episode? People are like, wait, who is this guy? And then they're just like, la la la, baseball. And they're like, wait, what about Nagato and the weather? And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the baseball game, the music suddenly fucking changes, and everyone gets a call from, like, their, like, overseers, with, like, Mikuru, like, putting a hand to the side of her temple, and Yuki looking up at the sky, and Itsuki's phone ringing, and the music gets dark, and the atmosphere gets dark, and Itsuki's like, there's a problem. If we don't win this baseball game, the world's gonna be destroyed. You can jump cut into Celestial, and you're like, what is that? What does he mean? What the fuck is happening?
talking about.
What?
Someone help. I
No,
need this
there's a
thing,
magic
and
baseball
you will not get
app.
one.
You won't.
You will have to wait another 4 hours for your explanation, and I think that's wonderful.
Because what I really like about, like, broadcast order is, like, there is, like, always this, like, at least for a good while, this, like, kind of, like, degree of separation where you're like, okay, they could all be Chunies, or there is actually something going on, and it's, like, really difficult to tell. Like, in hindsight, it's very obvious, but I've seen people, like, be like, but, like, is this actually happening, though?
I definitely think I was in the camp of, is this actually happening? For a little bit, and then I think back to Ryoko Asakura with a knife, and I'm
That's
like,
supposed to be the turning point, yeah.
yeah.
Which is, like, why I'm glad, like, it happens where it does, because that's basically your first confirmation that something one of them said was true. And it's something that, like, Kyon acknowledges was like, hold on, I think I can't doubt that anymore. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, so that means, and then you go forward and you're like, okay, so all of this is connecting and clicking and making sense. And it's really satisfying, like, in broadcast order. Like, I feel like with, like, you know, like, chronological order, you watch it straight through and you get all this info up and you're like, okay, cool, I get it. And then you just, like, watch the baseball episode and you're like, damn, Haruhi at it again. Like, it's not as, like,
Yeah.
engaging, I feel like.
Like, it's still fun.
It is
It
fun.
feels much more like a formula that has been established, which, to be fair, Haruhi is a little bit formulaic in the, like, single episode, like, little side journeys of, like, Mr. Ixine is like, oh, Haruhi did something and it messed something up, and now the gang's gonna go have to fix it without her finding out. The baseball game is like, oh, Haruhi's doing something, and if it goes bad, it's gonna mess things up, and the gang has to fix it. Like, there is a formula that gets established, but without knowing the pieces of that formula, or why, or even who, in Itsuki's case,
Yeah.
like, it becomes much more of a mystery that you are being asked to unravel. And can I skip ahead a little bit?
Yeah.
To the line, the Umineko sounding line in one of the novels,
Go ahead.
about the author, like, ranting on about the nature of mysteries and how mysteries leave clues that are, like,
Yes!
intended for you to, like, pick up and solve them, and to be able to look back and see in hindsight that it was obvious. And, like,
Yeah, so...
so welcome, Umineko readers. This is Umineko.
It's Umineko. If you haven't, like, read the most recent light novel, or, like, second most recent, if theater is out by the time you're watching this podcast episode, the first, like, I want to say, like, 20-30 pages of Surya's challenge, aka like the new story in Intuition, is literally like Itsuki, some other girl, and Yuki all, like, in the club room pulling out mystery novels and talking about them, and, like, dropping, like, a bunch of titles and being like, oh, this is your favorite, and, like, you know, like, there's always, like, a moment in the mystery where, like, you know, like, it's established that, like, all the clues have been given and you should, like, be looking back, and, like, the nature of any good mystery is to, like, leave clues for you to, like, go back and look at, and it's like, no way.
No way!
That's what inspired me to start doing Haruhi theorizing, because I was like, wait a minute, there are mysteries to solve and I have the clues?
Do you think at some point you could find the picture of all your Haruhi books with the notes in them and, like, put it up
always.
for people to see?
My melancholy book has gotten more stuffed, but I've had to, like, move the sticky notes into the book right now because I wanted to put them on my shelf.
Oh my god.
But, like, I definitely have, like, the original pictures. I'm insane. I'll say most of my bookmarks are strictly Itsuki Koizumi related.
That's true.
He's an enigma and I need to solve him.
We are even to the point where, like, a character saying another character by name is, like, a big, like, question that we're trying to solve. Like, I forget the exact details.
Yeah, so, this is one thing I don't like, what the anime did, which is they gave characters names who aren't supposed to have names or even full names, such as, like, the whole, like, band from, Live Alive. They're not supposed to be named, because there is a, kind of, what's the word? There's a pattern, there's a rule in Haruhi where if you don't have a name, you're human. And if we know your full name, you have something really strange going on with you. And if we know just your first name, you're kind of on the fence. Like, you're probably connected to something supernatural. And this has stayed a pattern true throughout the whole series. For example, we don't know Kyon's name. We only know him by nickname because he's a human. And he has no, like, supernatural abilities that we're aware of. It's possible we could find out his name later, and that'll change for us. But for right now, we only know him by nickname. And that's why we only know, like, other people by, like, the computer club president. You know? Like, we don't know his actual name. And so, like, it's interesting when, like, in the cricket episode, you know, like, this girl comes in, and she's like, I'm Emery Kimidori. And you're like, you have a full name? You have full name privileges?
Yeah. That is not an anime choice, for the record. That is...
Yeah.
Okay, that was one I was going to bring up.
She shows up and then disappears for a while. The disappearance of Emery Kimidori. I don't know if she's back yet, and I don't really want Lurf to say.
I can't comment on the status of Emery Kibidori. But we do have like you know, like all like the agency members that we know of at least like have like we know their last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about we know
like-
Mikuru's friend as well, eh?
Surya, yeah, we know
Yeah.
her for her
Yeah.
not her first name, her family name, her last name, which is interesting.
so we only know one
which
name.
We
it
don't
could
know
be
her
because
name, right?
we don't know her given name, and that's like the area that I like theorize with the most because there's the potential we are given their like first name at some point, or we have to figure out what the fuck does it mean that we know your last name but not your full name.
I have a lot of theories about Surya.
Me too.
And is very excited to see if they completely crumble to dust in the next novel. We'll
I'm
see.
very excited to see where you go.
Yeah, I have no idea what's gonna happen. It is. I picked a bad time to take a break. I'll say that, but.
Yeah, think so.
But that aside.
All right.
Right.
let's-
One thing
what-
about names,
Mhm.
real quick,
One thing about names.
that Liv pointed out to me is that Nagato only refers to people by their full names. She will only say Haruhi Suzumiya. She will only
Yes.
say Mikuru Asahina. She will only say Itsuki Koizumi. And she never calls Kyon by name. But what we
Yeah.
determined is that one of the big reasons it's important if you have a full name is because that means Nagato is now allowed to monologue about you.
Yeah, she can
Like-
exposition dump about you.
Which, given that Nagato is like,
Second
Yuki
most
Nagato.
expository character. Yeah.
Yuki Nagato is a wellspring of information and refuses to tell us anything. But, like, we just didn't ask? Like,
Yeah, exactly. We did not ask. I wish Kyon would ask more.
I love Kyoto as a protagonist, partially for his narration, because it's so good and kind of makes Haruhi what it is. It would be completely different if there was a more standard protagonist. But I love how much he doesn't care about the bigger picture. And how much he's just like, what's going on? What do you mean, other factions and organizations? Don't worry about that. It's not important right now. What's important is that Mikuru is shooting, like, water bullets and blowing up trees. Like,
Yeah. I love Kyon's like priorities because they're very different from mine, but they're very realistic from his perspective. But like, God, do I wish when like Itsuki's like monologuing about something and Kyon's like, I noticed something weird about that, but I'm not really gonna push on it because I don't really give a shit about Itsuki and I don't want to know more about him. I'm like, you shut the fuck up. You ask him right now. It's fucked up.
It is.
Fucked up he would do that to me. Me specifically.
I can't believe Kyon's done this to you.
I know, it's so mean.
Curse you, Kyon, and your alter ego.
Not your Kyon alter ego stuff.
I have a stupid crack theory about, like, alter ego Kyon, and we'll get into it, because it's dumb and I don't remember most of the evidence.
I think you had like multiple personality Kyon or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's not real, but it was
It's
stupid
not
and I found
real.
it funny.
And I kept finding evidence for it by making the biggest stretches.
It was very good.
Haruhi theory is often or theory crafting is often really funny and a lot of fun to do. But there's also,
Yeah.
like, the serious theory crafting that's like, wait a minute, we're onto something. And you can kind of tell, I think. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, you can definitely tell when like the dots are starting to connect. It's very satisfying.
it is.
All right.
It's very Umineko in that way, of like, hold up, nothing's like really disproving this. They might be onto something here. Like, I just keep finding more evidence for it, and you keep going further down the path, and you're like, I feel like I can not quite finalize this, but like put a bow on it and be like, yeah, I can believe that. And then you
Yeah.
get no information about new characters that show up, and the bow you put on it is very tightly wrapped, or very loosely wrapped, rather. Like, it's ready to fall off at any new line of dialogue. But that's what you get for stopping reading the novels at a critical point. That's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough about names, I think.
Yeah. I'll bring names back later for one of my theories, but I think I'll do that at a later section.
Yeah.
I know we wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess just while we're still talking about, I guess we were technically still talking about the beginning of Haruhi. I guess there's no better time for me to talk about, like, I really wish that the world was different and I didn't have to, like, I went to work and I, like, we do a thing where it's like, what did you do on the weekend? I was like, I read Haruhi Suzumiya, and, like, actually, like, I think I talked about Endless Eight. I kind of knew nobody knew what I was talking about. It was like, whatever. But I didn't do anything else interesting this weekend, so you have to hear about Endless Eight. And then one of my colleagues messaged me, and he has like a wife and a young kid, and he was like, "Oh yeah, cool. Oh, we've been watching Ghibli movies." So I was like, I know what I'll be watching next with the family. And I was like, oh no. Maybe I tried to recommend some other movies instead, but like, it's so fucked that like, and Umineko's the same. Every time I recommend Umineko, it's like, all right, but just get past the part where Battler tries to grope his cousin. Like, it gets better, all right. Like, just and like the same with like Higurashi. Like we've done the book clubs and like
Definitely.
gone through like five episodes of being like alternating between this is really good writing and oh my god, Keiichi, shut the fuck up. And, like,
Yeah, I think
Haruhi is like that.
One of the things that like I really don't like about the Haruhi adaptation, which I understand, like I can understand a reason why they did it this way, but I really don't like how like fan service and comedic they made the Mikuru gets harassed moments, because in the novels they're not really comedic or like all that like fan servicey to like an extent. Like I you know what I mean, like Kyon is like actively like being like in the narration like this is like really fucking bad and like you know like lambasting it. Meanwhile the anime is like tit shot silly music plays, the clown music on.
Look at how like self-absorbed Haruhi is, and how like she treats Mikuru just like her plaything pretty much. That, like
a
she can
doll.
Just do
and you don't really feel like that's like actually what they're going for in the anime until Sai, when like Haruhi's like, yeah, Mikuru's my toy and I can treat her that way if I want to, because like I understand why those segments are like in the series at all, which is to show that Haruhi is selfish and kind of narcissistic and has this kind of like complex, like a god complex where like it doesn't matter like what I do to other people, like other people are beneath me, I don't really give a shit about them. Like Kyon explains, like she sees other guys like a sack of potatoes, like she does not care about them at all. Like the world is just her like avenue for having fun, and she will do it regardless of like what other people think, because Haruhi at the start of the series does not have an awareness of other people and their feelings. And that, like, goes very much into, like, why she is a threat to the world and stuff like that. And, like, a lot of the journey of the series is Haruhi learning to appreciate the world as it is and, like, have friends, so she becomes, you know, less of a threat to the world by, like, destroying it and everything in her path. But, like, the anime just, like, makes it so, like, oh, here comes the silly clown music and Mikuru screaming and crying, and it's like, this is so hard to watch.
Definitely.
And, like, it would be hard to watch regardless. Like, I do think if they made it serious, it would feel pretty bad as well. So I think they tried to, like, bring levity in the situation so it was easier to watch. But I feel like in hindsight, it just made it feel like they weren't treating it seriously at all. And just, like, we're like, haha, funny girl gets sexually harassed. And it's like, I would have preferred if they, like, made it a little bit more serious and a little less fan servicey, you know? like maybe pay attention to the fact that Mikuru, because they do try to have the serious moments, but they don't have that much weight with them. I don't know. Like, I feel bad for her, but like, you know, you go from like silly clown music to like somber, like, Kyon, if I can't get, like, if no one will love me after this, will you marry me? And then she walks off, and I'm just like, we were just, the clown music was just playing. Like, the dissonance. It feels so off.
It really feels like, oh, look at Mikuru, she's so sad. Like, but not, like, actually holding the weight that has. It almost feels like I don't know. It's hard
It
to
feels like
explain
parody
because it's
in a
really
way.
baffling. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very strange, whereas, like, in the novels, I feel, like, a lot more, because I feel like it's, like, treated with, like, the seriousness it needs to, and obviously, like, Kyon does his, like, stupid narration where he goes over the top and stuff, but, like, he very much highlights why, it's happening, and, like, you know, it lessens over the course of the book, whereas, like, in the anime, they, kind of, we got that one anime original episode, Someday in the Rain, where they ignore a lot of Haruhi's development and make the whole episode Haruhi running around and harassing Mikuru to change into costumes while you read the book.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't feel like past Live Alive is something Haruhi would be doing. You know? I mean, like, obviously, like, she does it a bit in Disappearance, but, like, it's not as bad as time goes on, you know? Like, Mikuru just starts, like, doing her own costumes. Like, Haruhi will never stop getting costumes for Mikuru, but, like, in Disappearance, it goes from oh, I'm Haruhi Suzumiya, and I'm harassing Mikuru because she is my toy and an object that I own, because she's part of my club, and I stole her. To Mikuru, you gotta, like, up your confidence, like, you look great, girl, like, come on, like, own it, let's go. You know, like, her attitude about it changes.
Yeah.
And Mikuru is, like, clearly suffering less. There's
Mikuru
growth.
lives a life of suffering.
Mikuru always is living a life of suffering, and she never knows what the fuck is happening. And she's stressed out about it all the time.
Kyon has it pretty bad. Like, aside from Yuki, I think Mikuru has it the worst, though. Like,
Yeah,
they have.
I think
Kyon and
before
Yuki
Endless
have-
8, Mikuru has it the worst.
Yeah, definitely. But Endless 8, that's like existential right there. Like, that is.
It's so good.
That one's gonna be hard to top.
The real controversial opinion is I like Endless 8 in the anime more than I like it in the novels.
I adore Endless 8. I think it is fantastic, and you're
Art.
doing yourself a disservice if you only watch 3 episodes of it.
Yeah.
And that it might start to drag in, like, the 3rd episode or the 4th episode, but then eventually, like, it settles in and, like, breaks you in a way, and, like... and, like,
Definitely watch
there's-
it with friends.
Yeah, definitely watch it with friends. Maybe get some alcohol involved. I don't know. At some point, you will start mumbling the lines of the script, and like start playing the game of what's the difference in every episode, what's changing.
Yeah. Endless 8 is my favorite spot the difference game.
Absolutely, it's so
There
good.
is nothing quite like watching Endless 8 with friends, and you're like going through each episode and you're like saying the line like, can't she read the no diving sign? And then all of a sudden one episode you're saying the line and Kyo goes, can't thou not see the no diving sign? And you're like, what do you mean? Like, when they change the line on you, I feel like my world
Yeah.
shatters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, also, for context, I really enjoy the Haruhi dub. I think it is an example of a good anime dub.
It's a great anime dub.
Oh.
It is.
I only have like 1 or 2 minor problems with it, and that's mostly just like when they like translate something weird, like instead of it's going like, oh, that's a male calico, that's interesting, he's like, oh, Japanese bobtail, interesting. I'm like, that's not even true.
That's not even true.
Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, no, definitely. Also, the fact that the fan base apparently, like, picked out the voice actors like from a pool. Was like, I think that these people are the best fits for their roles. And my
They were
gosh,
right.
Kyon is such a good fit for his role.
I
Yuki
can't
does
even
a
watch the
phenomenal
sub
job. Yeah.
because Crispin Freeman is the Kyon in my brain.
Yeah. Haruhi, her voice is a little grating, and I think it's supposed to be. Like, so I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
checks out. Like, she feels a lot more pleasant to listen to, as Aya Hirano's, like, work as
Mhm.
her. But Haruhi kind of is a gremlin.
Yeah.
So maybe she should sound like a gremlin.
Yeah, maybe she should sound like she's gonna like break into your house and like steal your milk in the middle of the night, you know? Like
And what
I
are you
don't know
gonna
where
do to
that.
stop her? If she doesn't get her milk, the world will be destroyed.
No,
I,
literally.
I'm literally imagining it as like the guy stopping another guy from walking after someone meme, and it's like just Itsuki Koizumi in a black suit with his hand on your shoulder. It's like if Haruhi doesn't get her milk from your fridge, the world will be destroyed.
God, actually, that that's a fun lead-in to a vague misconception that I've seen a lot in the fandom. And the fandom's very dead, so this is an old misconception, but one that might still ring true today, which is the
Yeah.
Itsuki is not the end-all be-all when it comes to what Haruhi is and his theories on Haruhi. Because so many people are like, "Yep, Haruhi's God," and they drop it. I'm like, no. I don't know if that's true.
I
And
don't know if it's true.
that's like part of why I like the Psy arc so much because it's the first time you like get to iterate people's theories on Haruhi, and you realize that like not everyone believes what Itsuki believes, and like that's kind of like a moment for Kyon where he's like, wait a minute, yeah. Mikuru doesn't think Haruhi's a god at all. She just thinks that Haruhi's like this like supernatural magnet where like phenomena happens around her but like isn't caused by her. And then Yuki believes she's the key to auto evolution or whatever the fuck that means, and then Yuki won't tell him anything, and then she's like, by the way, you shouldn't believe everything that Itsuki Koizumi says. And Kyon's like, what? Why not? Can you tell me? And then she's like, no, because there's no guarantee for you that I'm not also lying. I mean, not for you at least. And then she leaves, and
Yeah.
Kyon's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck does that mean?
It's because they're all trying to throw Kyon off the trail. But
The answer.
Yeah.
Koizumi has the one truth.
The one truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually that they're all right on a rotating schedule of custody. It's like every Tuesday and Thursday, Haruhi's God. Every Wednesday and
Yeah.
Sunday, she's the key to auto evolution. Kyon gets her on Fridays, and she's just normal.
Because I feel like the secret purpose to Psy that like people look over is the fact that it is supposed to be like the solidifying of like the rivalry between the groups in the SOS Brigade, as well as the confirmation that like there isn't a truth. Like, we shouldn't just believe all the exposition dumps that Itsuki's been giving us. Like, there is room to theorize, and there, like, is no guarantee. Like, everyone here thinks a different thing. And it's, like, the kind of, like, de-confirmation of the Haruhi God theory of, like,
Yeah.
that might not actually be true. Question your reality, do it.
And Itsuki himself questions it and constantly questions his own theory because no one really like told him it. I don't think. I think he's just grasping at straws, and he's like, "Well, I remember things from more than 3 years ago, but I guess I would. So I can't prove that we are not living in last Thursdayism."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But
3
he
years
uses
agoism.
Kyon. Yeah, he
As
uses
a
Kyon as like a sounding board for his own ideas, which is why he waxes philosophic all the time.
Yeah, like, literally, like, inside, like, you know, like, it's he's, like, talking to Kyon about his theories, and Kyon's like, wait a minute, aren't you the guy who said, like, Haruhi was God? He's like, ha, lol, when did I say that? Like, and he's like, yeah, no, I know I said that, but like, what if she isn't? She was just gifted powers by a godlike entity. Like, he like switches his theories around and stuff, and he says it's kind of like hearsay in the agency to do that. Like he's like kind of the outlier and like the person who's like actively creating different Haruhi theories. And even like mentions like later on inside how he's kind of like roped into the side that he's on. And I think the most important thing is the thing that Yuki mentions, where Mikuru and Itsuki both have theories that validate their existence and their purpose here, and neither of them will budge on them, because if they do, it invalidates their like entire being and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're both coming up with theories that like would only work given their perception of things.
Yeah.
And they can't like go outside that perception, because like if Itzy goes outside of his like Haruhi gifted him these powers 3 years ago and like is the cause of all these events, that invalidates his entire existence as like an Esper and a part of her subconscious. Like he believes that is impossible, that she is not the reason he has these powers because of his connection to her and the closed spaces and stuff. Meanwhile, like Mikuru can't believe that she was like created on a whim in the future, because she knows there was a past you could travel to and something changed, and also like she exists in the future and like there's stuff going on, and they know things about the Haruhi situation that none of us do.
Do we know? It's been a while since I've been up to date on like my Haruhi knowledge. Do we know why specifically Mikuru is here? Is it just to generally help? Is it because she was here before?
Mikuru says that she is here, and she was just like here to like casually like observe in the background from this time plane, but it's like clear that like she was supposed to be picked up by Haruhi, because we know that her superior older Mikuru was picked up by Haruhi, and therefore that had to happen. Mikuru is here to make sure that the future isn't fucked up. That is something that is like reiterated. I'm pretty sure Yuki says inside that she is here to save like where she came from, basically. Like she is here to like protect the future from being like irreparably damaged or destroyed, and like make sure things go the way they're supposed to. Which is like why she has this whole thing of like, oh, you can't change the past. Like, you know, like if like changing the past won't affect the future. If you draw like a thing in a flip book, all the other frames aren't affected by the thing you draw. You have to like keep going. But then like Kyone's like, but wait a minute, I did this thing once that seemed to affect the future. And then Itsuki's like, isn't that contradictory? And Yuki's like, yeah, it was contradictory. And Kyone's like, what the fuck does that mean? And they're like, you'll understand when you're older. And Kyone's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Is that the scene where like Itsuki is like just playing chess?
Yeah, and he's like, oh no,
like, picks up the king and like puts it in his pocket, and was like, well, what was the meaning behind what I just did?
Yeah, she's like, oh no, my king's in check. What will I do? I guess I'll just run away. And he like picks it up and puts it in his pocket. He's like, can you explain to me what was contradictory about what I just did?
It's like, however, the king is not the most important piece in our game. It's the queen. Like, picks it up and throws it away. Like,
yeah.
Like, this man feels like he is on a Joker arc, like, every day. Like, he's the most clear-coded villain that I have read in a while.
There's no way he isn't a villain.
Isn't Koizumi also the one who hints that, like, Mikuru might have been chosen specifically because she would be appealing to Kyon?
Yeah, because like her like entire figure is like exactly like Hyun's type, and like her demeanor like feeds into like his like white knight hero complex, where he's like, I'll be her savior, I can protect her, she's small and petite and beautiful and innocent, and I will hold her as gently and safely.
I want to say Koizumi's having this, he's giving this exposition like in the middle of when like Mikuru's being harassed by like Haruhi, which kind of makes it feel very like either it's true that like being harassed by Haruhi is something that she's actually kind of doing on purpose to appeal to Kyon, or it's just really bad taste from like Koizumi to explain why he's not getting involved or whatever. Like,
yeah, he explains it on the bridge inside, like somewhere like not too far out of Kyon's house, like near the very end of the arc. And what's really funny about this is he explains it the night after Mikuru goes up to Kyon and is like, hey, Kyon, I don't think you should trust Koizumi. I have
Yeah.
a different theory from him, and I don't want to sound mean, but like I don't think you should trust him. And then Kyon goes and talks to Yuki about it, and Yuki's like, yeah, you shouldn't trust Itsuki. And then that night, Itsuki goes to Kyon's house like, we should talk. I'm gonna cast down on Mikuru, and also like I'm really stressed and I have to like memorize lines for my play, and it's so hard, and I'm like suffering so bad. So can you help me, please? Okay, thank you. Bye. Mwah, love you.
I have to
And then he
do
leaves.
this play, so you need to save the world, which I think it's very fascinating how like Koizumi just keeps being like, you know, I wish I could finally drop this act, and Kyona's like, fine, drop this act. I really don't like the act you're putting on right now. I kind of hate your guts. And he's like, but you see, I can't. And so I wonder if when he's talking about having to rehearse lines for his play, if he's talking about the literal physical play that he's in, or if he's talking about the act that he's been putting on.
I
Because
think
that
it's
is like
both.
canon that he is deceiving everyone. Like,
Yeah,
like to some
yeah.
extent. Like,
Doesn't help that he's got like he's got like the fox eyes, right? He's drawn with the fox eyes.
yeah.
Like
You don't understand. The first time he's introduced to the anime, like Kyon walks into the room and he has like his eyes covered by his hair and like the shadow of it and like a wide like toothy grin and like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a sly
when-
smile, and it's
That's-
like this
that's
man
when-
is a queer-coded villain. I
That-
can't
that's-
explain it.
That's
But-
the scene when Kyon is like, "Hey Koizumi, you have stuff you want to tell me about too? Yeah, about Haruhi and your secret identity." And he like gives like the most like villainous smile.
Yeah, like he's so.
And then
like,
they go out and have
vaguely
coffee.
Threatening, and then they have coffee.
Yeah. But speaking about his play, because I think it's very interesting, he mentions doing a version of Hamlet, and then later like confirmed that he is doing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and he's specifically playing Guildenstern. And do you guys know anything about that play?
I remember vaguely, is that there's a line in Hamlet that is making reference to the fact that they die in an upcoming scene, and then they're like they say something about next time or last time or something like that, and they're clearly referring to the next showing or the last showing or something like that, and how the actors are getting up and doing this over and over again. But there was a play that was written on the premise that is like diegetic and not a fourth wall break, and that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are like actually in a time loop, a la Higurashi. Like, that's what I know about it.
yeah, I didn't know any more than that.
Yeah, so, like, basically, like, the whole, like, vibe of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead are basically, like, it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, like, backstage Hamlet. Well, like, the play is happening in the background, and whenever they are not on stage, they're basically having, like, the world's largest existential crisis.
Ooh.
Yeah. So like they kind of like only exist within the context of the present narratives, and they don't get to have like past and stuff because it is irrelevant, and they don't even like know which one of them is which. They are constantly getting each other's names mixed up,
Oh,
as well as
yeah?
like the other people. Yeah. And Guildenstern, specifically, who is the one Itsuki plays, is the one who like goes on and on about like a lot of philosophical concepts and stuff. Like he's like the more like quote unquote knowledgeable of the two. They're both very stupid though. And he also has this running gag where like he'll what's it called? I have to find it. I have notes on this.
Oh yeah. Not surprised.
Dude, it goes really deep.
It sounds like it. I've been meaning to look
yeah.
into it.
So basically, Guildenstern performs like these little punning riffs on a segment of the Lord's Prayer, where like like Rosencrantz will like make a remark, and he forms like a pun based on the situation. So like when Rosencrantz goes, "Consistency is all I ask," Guildenstern goes, "Give us this day our daily mask," instead of like like bread. And the fact that he says mask is very interesting because it's like Guildenstern like throughout and Rosencrantz throughout this like whole play have like their identities hidden too much. Like no one can keep them straight. They have like absolutely like no need for masks, and it's kind of like a like resigned response to their like situation. and I can go on and on about like how like the play seems to like kind of be, at least like in Haruhi, it seems to be referencing the agency's like situation and how they are stuck like performing in these roles and they can't really be anything else and their fate is like resigned, and it's very like Itsuki core. Like
Yeah, no, for
I
sure.
feel like
Oh,
you can
jeez.
glean a lot of Itsuki's character by like watching like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Especially given the fact that like the play is explicitly mentioned, and in the novel it says that like Itsuki fucking winks at Kyon in like the crowd at the very end of the play. And he's like constantly bringing it up throughout Sai. And also in Disappearance, his entire class disappears, which at least lends to my
forgot.
idea that like the entire classroom is connected to the organization in some way.
It's like class 10, right? I think.
Class 9, yeah.
Class 9. Like, they literally are there, and then when Haruhi's influence on the world is altered, they stop existing. They stop going to the school. The classroom's even not used. Like,
It's not
like,
even there. The whole classroom
not
is
e-
gone.
Wait, so, like, the construction of the school has been altered by Haruhi
Yes.
Suzumiya's will, is what that... Do you think
Well,
that
by
she
Yuki's
made
will.
another class for there to be an empty seat for Koizumi to transfer into?
I
Like,
would
'cause
not
I
be
could see that.
surprised.
I could totally see that, but the implications are terrifying because it means that Haruhi either has a whole group of espers just sitting in a classroom all day at her school doing something. Actually, they don't have to be espers. They can be from
Yeah,
the
they can just
organization.
be allied
There's
with the agency.
allegedly
Yeah.
like a handful of espers in the world, but given that they
Mhm.
all have to be in the same area, I don't know about that. I don't know how closed space really works. I don't know if it opens up like there's some closed space opening up in Boston and they have to run over there. Like
An
I
excellent
don't know.
question.
Maybe it's localized. I don't think it's been really addressed. So
It hasn't.
for
No,
now
because
we
Kyon
assume
won't
that
ask
it's
questions.
localized and spreads out from Haruhi. So
Yeah.
Kyon never asks questions. Yeah.
I mean, we know they don't like happen exactly in the same area because like he was like, oh yeah, this one's far away when he was taking Kyon to one, and we know they can occur
Yeah.
in different places.
Yeah. But either she has a whole group of an organization that wants to control her in the same school as her, or potentially more terrifying is she just invented 30 people. Like, they didn't exist before her. Like,
We know they do exist though because they go to the school.
oh,
the-
you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
where Itsuki and Haruhi go
Okay.
to. My
She
brain wanted to go Kanuki Galka, and I'm like, no, that's assassination classroom.
She gave like better credentials to the school so they'd have enough money to build another room, and then they would have things to draw more students to them.
Or she just like was like, we need a classroom for a mysterious transfer student to come into.
No,
Class
I
9's
totally-
always existed.
Class 9's always existed.
It's always existed.
I am terrified of the idea that there are times when, like, Haruhi has changed something and everyone just forgets that it wasn't always that way. Because that
Yeah.
could probably happen.
It could.
Like-
It hasn't happened to our knowledge, though, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, everyone, at least who is around Haruhi, is aware that things have changed. It could also be possible that Yuki just got rid of the classroom as a kind of, like, both as a, like, I'm not
Koizumi
dealing
will
with that.
Not be coming back.
Yeah, but also as a kind of, like, hint to Kyon to, like, look outward, because she did want Kyon to, like, have the
That's
option.
true.
You
That's
know,
true.
so it's kind of like
She
a
wanted-
nudge in the right direction.
She cares about Kyon because he's the only person who really sees her as a person, rather than...
Yeah.
Which he still struggled with a little bit prior to Disappearance. And I adore Disappearance. It's actually
good.
peak fiction. It's actually, like, the best anime movie. Like,
It is.
for me, it's either that or, like, a silent voice. And Disappearance has all the character building of Haruhi backing it. Like...
Yeah.
And as a resolution to the whole events of the Endless Eight, and it's just so good.
And it's gorgeous too.
Oh.
It is. This is the segment where we gush about disappearance for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Before we get there, I just had a thought. Do Kyon's friends have names?
Yeah, Kunakita
Yes.
and Taniguchi.
Taniguchi.
And they have one name each.
Yeah, we know their last names.
Interestingly enough, what is it? It's Taniguchi.
Are we getting into my
There's something.
Taniguchi theory?
There's something about your Taniguchi theory. that
My
we need to look up.
Taniguchi theory!
I forgot some of the evidence. It's been a while.
That was the
So-
theory I was talking about. Let me pull out my book. Hang on.
Oh yeah.
I got some sticky notes because there are things that are only mentioned in the narration of the book that fuel my theory. But I theorize that Taniguchi is either an Esper or involved with the organization.
I agree.
And I have so much fucking proof for that.
It's kind of shocking.
It is ridiculous the amount of proof there is that he is involved. I actually it was a crack theory at first, and I was like, wait a minute, why is this fitting together? Why does this make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that's one of those
Jeez.
theories where it's like you can kind of tell when you might be onto something. Like,
Yeah.
it
I've
keeps
only
happening.
gathered evidence from Melancholy through Psy, so no need for spoilers here. But I have quotes. Alright, so first of all, Taniguchi was around Haruhi when she was in middle school and seems to have an extensive knowledge about her and all of her eccentricities. Initially, he tells
Oh,
Kyo not to
God.
bother even trying to interact with her, and this behavior will change later on when Kyo and Haruhi start getting along. Here's a quote from Haruhi in Melancholy. You heard that from Taniguchi? I can't believe I'm still in the same class with him in high school. Maybe he's a stalker. Which is interesting that he's continually
Yeah.
been in the same class with her for the past 3-ish years.
Yeah, and
and then-
it literally is a stalker. So
Yeah, he is a stalker. And here's a foreshadowy quote from Kyon. I wouldn't mind if a mysterious, beautiful transfer student was actually half alien, half human. And if that moron Taniguchi sitting nearby trying to spy on Haruhi and me had been actually an investigator from the future. That would have been pretty cool. And if Ryoko Asakura, who was smiling in my direction for some reason, had actually been an Esper, life
Yeah.
at school would have been a bit more fun.
And
and-
you could totally see, looking at that, how all the roles are shuffled up a little bit, but those 2 out of 3 are correct.
And he's
Yeah,
gonna regret,
so,
he's gonna regret one of those.
He actively
Very good.
predicts that Asakura isn't normal and knows that she's watching them for some reason. And then he mentions Taniguchi is doing the same thing, even though he has another friend option he claims could be the transfer student alien. He specifically says transfer student instead of being oh, Kunakita could be an alien and Taniguchi could be a time traveler. He doesn't mention Kunakita at all, which is interesting to me. And he says this before Haruhi says she wants a mysterious transfer student to appear, so it isn't even just Haruhi put the idea of a transfer student in his mind. He just came up with that on his own. And
Yeah,
then
no, definitely.
Taniguchi confronts Kyon about the magic he used to get Haruhi to open up. I don't give a damn about whether or not Kyon likes weird girls, said Taniguchi. What I want to understand is how Suzumiya and Kyon managed to hold an actual conversation. I can't accept that. And immediately after this, Asakura suddenly pops up and wants to know this exact same thing Taniguchi is asking. For some reason, they both want to know how Kyo managed to get Haruhi to open up, and we know why Asakura wants to know this, so why the fuck does Taniguchi want to know this? It's interesting, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's very much behavior you would see from the SOS Brigade, but from people who are not part of it. And
Yeah.
you learn why one of them are doing it. And this is not a series where coincidence really happens.
It isn't, no. Right after Haruhi talks to Kyon in class about wanting a mysterious transfer student, Taniguchi asks Kyon what he and Haruhi are up to, in the very next scene. Taniguchi also warns him about dating Haruhi, telling him he shouldn't, and that behavior changes in the future. And he actually starts supporting the Haru-Kyon ship like Koizumi does, which is interesting. And then later on in Melancholy, Taniguchi and Ryoko both check in on Kyon to find out more about the brigade, and not long after that is when Koizumi finally transfers in.
Oh my god.
Koizumi says he has other personnel in the school during his exposition dump to Kyon, and Kyon immediately thinks about Taniguchi and asks Koizumi about it. And Koizumi it says, Koizumi quickly dodged that question. Well, I don't know about that. Which is interesting behavior. For some reason, Taniguchi comes in right after Ryoko attacks Kyon. And when he says, my bad, in the novel, Kyon says it's in a serious tone he's never heard from him before. And Nagato calls him interesting. And it's really rare for Nagato to comment on people.
Yeah. Especially to think that they are interesting, because it's Yuki Nagato, the freaking data overmind, like, not the data overmind, but we mentioned TFEIs earlier, and they don't even come up in the anime, I don't think.
They do, Itsuki mentions it.
Interfaces is what we think they mean.
Yeah, that makes the most sense.
It does.
Either that or it's like a slur and Koizumi is like alien racist, which I wouldn't put past him.
I would totally believe that Koizumi is alien racist, but Taniguchi...
We already know he hates time travelers. But back to Taniguchi theory. Later in Melancholy, when they're in the car ride going to the closed space, Kyon claims everything is Kyon's fault because he gave Haruhi the idea for the club. Koizumi was not here for this and has no way of knowing about this unless someone told him about it. And we know that he had to like transfer in and like probably know about the club to think he had a chance of like being able to hang out with Haruhi, and the fact that Haruhi wanted a transfer student for her club. And Taniguchi and Ryoko are the only people in their class who have ever been said to have an eye on Haruhi enough to know about this. And the moment where Haruhi says that she wants a mysterious transfer student to appear could also have been overheard by either of them. And for some reason, I doubt Ryoko is drip feeding Koizumi information so he can transfer into school. I'm just saying. Not long after the closed space encounter, Kyon confronts Taniguchi about possibly being an Esper. And he doesn't even say no. It says that he gets a dumb look on his face and says, I see, you've finally been infected by Suzumiya's poison. Wasn't very long, but it was nice knowing you. Stay away from me or I might be infected by Suzumiya. And then he laughs it off. Which is like an interesting way to respond to that. He doesn't say no. I find that interesting.
The fact that Kyon himself, like, goes up and asks the question.
Right? Like, he's doing detective work. He's putting the work in.
I would still say that that's a much more organic response than just being like, no, I'm not an Esper.
Yeah. I think it's organic. But combined with
is.
everything else, and especially this next bit of evidence, which I think is like the thing that really like sealed the deal for me. After the closed space incident with Kyon and Haruhi, it is mentioned the only saving grace was that I didn't run into Taniguchi and had to deal with the stupid blabbering, which means that Taniguchi wasn't around for some reason. And all three Supernatural Brigade members had to check out of school early because of the big closed space incident at the end of Melancholy as well.
Yeah. So,
and the fact that it's specifically mentioned that Taniguchi was absent for some reason, and we've like never gotten a follow up on that. It's not even just like, oh, like, you know, like, why mention that at all if it's not like relevant, you know?
Exactly. Like, I don't. There's so much that does not make sense to be there if it is not building to something. I fully believe that Taniguchi is in some manner connected to all of this. And that is terrifying because he's like a nothing character right now. Which means any nothing character that has a first name
a last
could
name.
Hypothetically, a last name, yes.
Yeah.
Could hypothetically, like, swoop in and be like, hey, it's me. Here's the reveal.
No, it's terrifying. There's also a bit more evidence from Sai, but not as strong. Early on in Sai, Taniguchi encourages Kyon to cook up with Haruhi, which directly contradicts his earlier advice to Kyon with how to interact with her. This is after the kissing incident, too, in the closed space, and that's also when Koizumi started suggesting Kyon should be getting romantic with Haruhi. And as we know, Koizumi, and by extension, the agency, really seems to want them to get together because it seems to do wonders for Haruhi's mood. Also need to note that Taniguchi canceled literally all of his plans to film the movie. Kunakita and Surya did too. I don't really have an excuse for Kunakita. I have thoughts about Surya.
I sure do.
But I think it's interesting that they like explicitly said like he like literally like canceled all of his plans to do something with Haruhi.
And for what it's worth, they do cover it up with saying that he's doing it to have a chance to like get closer to Mikuru. But like,
Yeah,
if he is a member of one of these organizations, he's the best liar we've seen.
yeah. There's
Like,
also like the idea that he like wants to be included and he feels left out, which is like a little interesting as well. Like why do you care so much? And he also has like an entire character song like from the anime all about like please like let me in on this stuff, like I want to like get involved, which is fun.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's also when Koizumi insists Kyon apologize to Haruhi about her snapping at him. There's a scene immediately after that when Kyon's having lunch with like Taniguchi and Kunakita, and Taniguchi goes off to Kyon complaining about Haruhi in the movie, like how Kyon was. And that's like the thing that triggers Kyon to apologize to Haruhi, like Koizumi wanted him to do in the first place.
Yeah, and that is the trigger to him, like, storming off and having the monologue of, thanks to you, I'm gonna do something I'm definitely going to regret.
Yeah.
And he goes off and decides, no, Haruhi, we're making the best damn movie the school's ever seen. Like,
Taniguchi master manipulator? Fascinating.
Taniguchi, master manipulator, Esper, organization scum.
There's also a scene, and I forget where it is, but when they're like at like the lockers, and like Taniguchi is like trying to like get updates on Kyon about like what's going on in the brigade, and he's like, well, like I can't talk to Mikuru because she like faints. Like Nagato doesn't say anything, and I can't talk to Itsuki because he like gives me the creeps. But I feel like Itsuki, like if they are within the organization, is maybe keeping Taniguchi in the dark a little bit, and Taniguchi kind of like might want to like get more involved because he's clearly like doing grunt work, which would fall in line with his song, his character song about wanting to be involved in part of the action and like with everyone.
Yeah. I will say that some of his obsession with Haruhi, I say obsession, it's like a mild interest that we see. Um, like, could also be setting up his importance in disappearance. Is another alternate explanation for about a third of the evidence. In that he is the reason that Kyon figures out that Haruhi ever existed at all in this world.
Yeah,
And is able to go and find her before time's up. And that
that
does
is
not
true.
need to be overstated of how big a deal that is. But
Huge
like,
deal. There's stuff you haven't gotten to about Taniguchi's role in disappearance that furthers my theory that I can't
What?
talk about though. Anyway.
okay, all right. I'm
There-
4
there is
novels
something-
after disappearance.
There is something you haven't gotten payoff for yet, and I'm waiting for you to get there. But you
I'm
probably
still
won't get there
thinking.
until like the 9th or 10th novel.
Okay, I'm still thinking about Taniguchi's girlfriend that he has in Disappearance. And how, like, she is part of Class 9 because she goes to North High instead.
She is not part of Class 9. He mentioned that she goes
Oh.
to that same school,
Right, she
Kyoyo
goes
and
to that-
Academy.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
The
they go
all-girls
to North
school.
High.
They go to North High, yeah.
Okay, never mind. My theory's bad.
Yeah.
My theory is, like, if she's part of Class 9, maybe she brought Taniguchi in on all this organization stuff. And it's like, no, immediately unraveled. Which is
I
how a
think
lot of theories go for a lot of things. So,
I just think there's some interesting things happening with Taniguchi, and I look forward. I also have some vague Kunakita theories, but I can't talk about those until you finish the series.
oh yeah?
Yeah.
We got some surprise, like, context.
Yeah.
I can't believe that Haruhi went on hiatus for 10 years, and I barely ever heard about it. And then it comes back, and then, like, 2 years later, I hear about it and immediately fall in love with it, and now there's another novel on the way. And I'm like, I'm so glad
excited.
I didn't have to wait for, like, 8 years. like,
Ooh.
and I feel bad for everyone that has had to, but...
Yeah,
Like a
it's
jam.
it's really funny because when I was getting back into Haruhi, I joined like the small little like community Discord, and there's like one channel in there that says like season 3 or novel, and the only message in there for the longest time was this channel will only be updated if we get season 3 or a new novel comes out, so never. And then like a couple months
Never.
later, it was like guys, new novel, announced, and then we all went wild. It was great.
I would adore season 3 of Haruhi, and it's not like it would like do bad. There would be a ton of interest in it, I think.
There would be a
Like-
ton of interest, and there's so much to adapt.
There is. Like, they could do 25 episodes. They won't, but they could.
I want to
Like-
see Snowy Mountain Syndrome adapted.
Me too. I want to see. I was thinking of Where'd the Cat Go, or whatever it was, but no, Snowy Mountain Syndrome. I definitely need to see in the anime.
No, same. I also want to see that mysterious person from Intrigues get animated.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
No,
There-
definitely.
There's so much I would want to see in Haruhi
Want to
season
see
3.
the dog talking about ghosts.
Yes, of course. That's exactly
Which-
what happens in that book.
So for context, all the Haruhi novels have like weird covers, but they usually make sense. Like, but for the next novel that I have to go into, I open up the page and I see the indignation of Haruhi Suzumiya, and then I see a dog,
No.
and then I see what appears to be two ghosts in a white sheet, like two sheet ghosts all in black, like because it's ink. And I'm like, what does this mean? Is this a
Damn.
good representation of the book? And Life is like, about 70%. Like,
This is about 70% accurate to the events in the book, yeah.
and I'm like, what? What are you But for how?
I can't explain
And-
how. You have to read the book.
Yeah, no, definitely. I gotta read the book, and I might do that after this recording.
Oh my god,
see.
live read?
Live read.
Yeah. Start a new book club.
I missed your
Haruhi
live
Book
commentary.
Club.
Haruhi Book Club will win.
Haruhi Book Club. We cover every novel after the anime, and then like
I'd love to do that
sequentially.
so much.
That would be really fun. I don't know if there's a demand for it, but like,
If there is, guys, if you want to see us do Haruhi Book Club, please leave a comment below and like the video.
I think we'd need another editor because, like, if,
Oh, yeah,
if
totally.
I'm the editor,
Yeah.
we'll finish the series and then I will edit the first episode at the rate I'm going.
yeah.
Maybe I will take up the editing chair.
I don't know how to do it, but I could look into it.
I didn't know how to
Hey.
do it when I started. Technically I still don't know how to do it, but I have figured out the sequence of button presses that gets you to the good enough solution.
No, for
Well,
sure. I actually had a whole video essay that I wrote a script on and recorded and started working on, and then I got about 3 out of 20 minutes into it, and like my hard drive got corrupted,
No.
and I lost all the progress, and I'm still like, I need to go back and do that because I really want a Haruhi essay, because there's like no Haruhi theory videos on all of YouTube, like.
No, there aren't, which is like baffling to me because there's so much to talk about. Like, what's the deal with Koizumi and the agency? Like, why doesn't Mikuru know about boats? That's interesting.
Why doesn't Mikuru know about boats? She literally in Remote Island Syndrome is like, oh, it's a boat, and it's water.
Like, how is such a
How
big
does it
thing
float?
floating, Kyon? And Kyon's like buoyancy, and she's like, oh, which is
So does, like,
fascinating.
you not have boats? in the
Oceans?
future? It's just
No,
like, that's classified.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's
Like-
very odd.
Can we take a moment to, like, it feels like we're kind of collapsing the structure
Yeah.
of this a little bit. So let's take another turn to talk about the time plane destruction device.
Yeah. So
Why is it called that? That's so scary.
I can't comment on that because I know.
Oh,
Oh!
is,
I
is that
see!
the gun from Disappearance?
No.
No. The time plane destruction device, or the TPPD, or TPDD, is the equivalent to Mikuru's time machine. That's what
right.
she tells Kyo, and she uses the TPDD to travel through time. And in Disappearance, adult Mikuru unclassifies the acronym and calls it the time plane destruction device. And Kyo's like, I thought that was classified, and she's like, I have lots less restrictions now. I had to work my butt off to get this far, and it's never elaborated on.
That's scary.
Except what it is.
Except what it is.
Yeah.
Mikuru is like, honestly, Koizumi lives in my head rent free, but Mikuru is the character I need the most answers about. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my theory at this point is that she just likes fucking with Kyon, like, just like that the time traveler part is true. But then she's
I
like,
can believe that for adult Mikuru.
She could totally get away with
totally
just being
believe
like,
that for adult
there are
Mikuru.
cows in this time plane. It's like, what? Are cows extinct? Oh, that's classified. Like, she could just do whatever she wanted. Like,
it's like, oh, a cat. It's been so long since I've seen one of these. About 150 years. Like,
Oh my god.
because we don't know how far. Well, you might know how far in the future their future is, but I sure
No
don't.
comment.
No comment. That's classified. Okay.
That's classified. That's classified.
Understood. That's classified.
I'm gonna say that every time you bring up something I know that you shouldn't know.
Oh gosh, I need to get back to reading the novels. Apparently,
You do. You do. I've been waiting 84 years.
84 years.
I've
I've been
reread
waiting
Homesick
6
3
million,
times.
Maybe 3 years in an overnight story.
God. But yeah, no, the time plane destruction device is really interesting. They like throw a lot around like a decent amount of like little like bits of information in Haruhi that they don't follow up on, and a lot of it they still haven't followed up on. Which I would really like to know answers to, like, what does, like, TFEI mean, and, like, why does the organization need, like, a specific acronym to, like, refer to them? Like, what's that about? What about the guy pulling Nagato's strings, lest we forget about that?
I want a whole book that is just like what Nagato does, like in her day-to-day, like just no narration. It's just Nagato going about her business in silence, and like we see all the nonsense that she takes care of without anyone ever seeing. Because there's a line, and oh my god, we need to talk about it. In the anime of Sai, or of Live Alive, I think specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It's briefly mentioned in the novel, but it's more highlighted in the anime. There's a bunch of people in like medieval costumes and stuff, like running around.
Yeah.
And like after the festival, Kyona's like, there wasn't a play or a class event that was themed like that. I don't know what happened there. And then
The
he's like,
sliders!
the sliders! So, sliders aren't in the anime, but they would probably now be better referred to as isekai characters.
Yeah.
But Kyon references, like... Haruhi does. Kyon also does, but Haruhi references time travelers, espers, aliens, and also sliders. And given her track record, which is 100%, because it's Haruhi freaking Suzumiya, there's gotta be an isekai character at some point. There's gotta be. There might already be, but we don't really know about that one. I thought that Kyon became a slider, but technically no.
Yeah, because Disappearance is in another universe. It's the same universe, it just got changed.
Yeah. It's like the world around him slid, but he did not.
Yeah, it didn't even, like, slide more so than, like, Nagato, like, took, like, the Lego city that Haruhi built and, like, rearranged some of the bricks.
Yeah, no, definitely. She just took out the little Lego men and, like,
Yeah.
moved them to a different place. And, like, twisted their heads backwards, and they're like, this is a different character now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, sliders are like the mystery mouse-catool of Haruhi, in which, like, in the novel, they're mentioned immediately at the spot. Like, if any of you are aliens, time travelers, espers, or sliders, please come see me immediately. And, like, throughout, like, the entire series thus far, Kyon's like, when's the slider gonna show up? When's the fourth
Yeah.
guy showing up?
When does the fourth guy show up? Does he know that he's the fourth guy?
Maybe.
What if Haruhi
What
is
if
the
Haruhi-
slider?
That's also a thought. I have so many
Um,
thoughts on
Yeah.
that shit. I don't think Haruhi's a slider because I know she existed prior to 3 years ago.
Yeah. But
But I'm just like, who is not from here, and are they aware of it?
speaking of people not from here and being aware of it, is there's all the people in like medieval knight costumes running around and stuff like that. And at the end of the book, Kyoto's like, that wasn't for anything. Nothing.
And they're gone
is
now.
related to that, and I don't see them around anymore. And then it's like, come to think of it, Nagato was wearing a really weird costume and said it was for a class, and then like, God, I forgot that Nagato was a fortune teller, and like could just tell people exactly what would happen to them with certainty, like,
Yeah.
which is terrifying.
I remember saying to Lurth after we finished Haruhi, like, it's a good thing that Nagato doesn't like give Kyon her theory on Haruhi, because like that's the one I would probably believe.
Yes.
Like if all three
Yeah.
of them gave a theory, I'd be like, well, like Yuki's the one who like fixes the other two's messes,
Yes.
like the most.
Yuki is the most trustable character, I think.
Yeah,
If
and
Yuki says
Which is
something,
kinda
it becomes
scary in a
canon
way.
in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
And I definitely think that Yuki, because like she's like the observer here, she's trying not to like, you know, like cause problems like to like the data. Like she's like not here to interfere, she's here to watch. So if she tells Kyon her theory and, you know, knows Kyon trusts her, knows you would probably believe her, that would fuck up her data gathering. Because it
Yes,
would like
indeed.
ruin the observation. It would cause like a bias to occur.
yeah. But, so, Kyon has this moment where he's like, is Yuki, like, trying to solve a problem in the background of our A plot that, like, is there, like, a C plot going on that I just didn't know about that Yuki's taking care of? Does she do this often? Is this just a thing she does? Is that, like, she knows that she can solve it on her own, and so she just does it? That's really lonely.
Yeah, Yuki
Like-
do be carrying everything on her shoulders all the time.
Yeah.
I feel for
I feel
her.
so bad for Yuki Nagato.
Yeah,
She's
I
so good. She needs to be happy.
she does. On the subject actually of not you know, like affecting her data, I think that's also could be a reason why she like made Kyon skeptical of both Mikuru and Itsuki's theories of like, hey, they're both making their own theories based on their own existence. Like you can't trust anything like either of us said because there's no way to prove it. As a way to like make sure they don't affect like what's going on as much either. Which is interesting because they both do seem to be fueling their own agendas. Mikuru, I feel like, is less aware of it. She's just following orders, but like Itsuki very deliberately is trying to influence Kyon. Again, like Kyon is the key. Like they need to unlock the door, and then what will happen is ...
I fully believe that, like, adult Mikuru is just a hardline, like, villain. Like, I think that
I don't trust her
whatever she
ass.
is doing is bad and shouldn't be, she should not just get her way. Because that's not gonna end well for Yuki Nagato, my beloved.
Yeah, especially given
Like-
they were enemies in the Adventures of Mikuru Asahina episode 00.
Yeah.
Before I derailed this topic with like
No,
asking about the
definitely.
names of Kyon's friends, we were going to talk about disappearance, which I think threads nicely back into talking about Yuki Nagato carrying the universe on her shoulders.
Yuki.
Yuki Nagato. The girl who
Disappearance.
somehow usurped God.
Which is very fascinating to think about, that we know that the TFEIs have the power to use Haruhi's
Yeah.
power to their own will and, like, transfer it to, like, themselves, hypothetically, other people, and change the way the world works. Which is honestly interesting if you think about the fact that like one of Iski's theories in Sai is that like someone gifted Haruhi these powers. So like, did she get them from somewhere else? Were they transferred? Were was this also alien doing? We
I
don't know.
have some theories about that. I'll tell you what.
Ooh, theories.
And we can get to that because it requires a little bit of novel stuff.
Yeah,
After
well,
disappearance, probably.
we'll get to that after disappearance.
Nothing
But
major, but
disappearance is such a great character study for Kyon and Yuki both.
yeah.
It is like the culmination of like everything that had been like been building up to that point into like this like glorious fucking crescendo.
I love it so much.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, there's everything to do with Kyon. The whole series being like, dang, why does Haruhi have to be bugging me with all her problems? Why do I have to get caught up in all this? Why can't I just live a normal life? I don't want to be
Right.
like
It's
on the heroes team. Like at best I'd be a sidekick, but I don't even want to be that. It's so much work. And then that gets taken away from him and he's like, I finally get it. I actually really, really, really love being a part of all of this and spending time with everyone. And even if it's insane, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And literally has the option to trade it for the world. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And it's very much like the two most like passive characters because like I feel like disappearance is like kind of like about like the action and inaction in which Yuki, the most like observably like inactive in the background character, finally makes a choice for herself and like her own decision to like warp the world, and she creates this like big fucking wave. And like, you know, like it's about her taking action for herself like for the first time ever, and like showing like Kyon like what she wants, and that she like wants to be human and she wants to be treated as such. And meanwhile, Kyon, who has been nothing but like a bystander and a passive observer of events, who like doesn't like want to get directly involved but keeps getting wrapped up into things, finally deciding to stop being this like passive inactive observer, like Yuki stopped her like observing role, because that's like what she was made for, and take action and like step into the spotlight of one of the active participants in the you know, the keep Haruhi in the dark and solve all the things club.
it's so good.
I have to say, I I feel very like bittersweet about disappearance, because like while Yuki gets a lot of like agency in the instigation of the thing, and to be fair, like she's instrumental in the resolution as well, but it does feel like the resolution is about Kyon. Do you want to carry on like this, or do you want to go back to how we were? And like, there's not a whole lot explored in terms of what Yuki wants.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you know, except for the fact that like she clearly made this world because that's what, you know, she probably wanted. She was tired of being
I think
the, you know, and she'd just come out of Endless 8 and like
that Yuki
you know.
Nagato was just tired of her lack of agency and her role, and how she wasn't allowed to do anything other than, like, she wasn't allowed to do anything really, because I don't know if I can talk. Do they talk about her sinking in? No, they don't.
vaguely.
That's novel stuff. They talk about it, but they don't talk about anything after.
They mention it in Disappearance, where like past Yuki of like 3 years ago like tries to sync with her future self, and she's like, I can't do it. She like refused to sync with me, so I don't know what's going on with her. I understand there's like a malfunction and we have to fix it.
Okay, yeah. And so in that, you kind of see this gets into a whole conversation about like free will and Haruhi, but which is probably a whole other smoking room we could do. But
Yeah.
but like it is both that the act of like Nagato knows everything that's going to happen up until after Bamboo Leaf Rhapsody, which is the arc where Kyon goes back in time. No, she doesn't know what happens with Kyon, right? Wait. My brain.
Wait.
don't
What
remember.
are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that because future Nagatos have synced with, like, Nagato from 3 years ago, this whole time, she's known everything that's going to happen, and,
Yes.
like, has kind of not been allowed to change anything because she knows what will happen and needs to collect that data. And her
Yeah.
role as a TFEI from the data overmind, like, it's
is
basically the equivalent of like a warlock patron that like cannot like of a warlock that cannot like like what's the word, like take a detour from what their orders are, and gets so fed up with that the only way that she feels she can have any freedom is if she's just gone from all of this, is if she's a normal human girl that can just live a life however lonely it might be. Because even if she's alone, it'll be her life. And I feel like at the end of Disappearance, when she gives Kyon the gun, that like she is weighing like the life that she has created for herself. Although that is a past Nagato that does that. So, but she is like weighing the weight of like of her freedom with like Kyon recognizing and accepting her as a person, and like chooses not to be alone and free, but to be still somewhat constrained, but with people who will fight for her. And I think that is a beautiful like character direction for her, to still have these problems and not just run away from all of them, but to face them with everyone, even if everyone is just Kyon at like the point of disappearance.
Yeah, because
And I'd
Disappearance.
love to see where it goes.
Yeah, Disappearance is very much about the relationship between Kyon and Yuki, aka this like alien who has like been nothing but basically like a machine and like forced to be that way and observe and do nothing else, and the one person who has ever asked her how she was feeling or like what she wanted to do, and like recognize like her like when she enjoyed herself, or like could actually like tell that she had feelings and was a person. And even though like Kyon was like constantly relying on Nagato to fix their problems, like he still like kind of saw her as more of a person than anyone else ever has. And Yuki puts a lot of trust in Kyon, like even like to the point like where in Sai, like when Itsuki tells Yuki to open her hand, she looks to Kyon first to get confirmation of whether she should do that or not. She relies on Kyon almost as much as Kyon relies on her sometimes. Yeah, like she trusts his judgment more than anyone else, especially because he's the one who got her out of Endless Eight. Like she's like, this guy knows what he's doing. He didn't for a long time, but like he finally fucking came through and he saved me. Against all the impossible odds, he did it. So I feel like there's just like a lot of trust there. And I think the way like Disappearance ends is like really important to me, because basically Kyon has this entire monologue right before shooting Yuki where he's like weighing the options in his head, and it's like his decision, and he's like thinking it over, and he understands fully why Yuki did this and like all of her like struggles and stuff. But when he tells Yuki that, he's like, sorry, I liked it better the old way. Like he doesn't like
he's straight up.
fully
He says, "I like
empathize with her. It's his decision. It's his selfishness that like is like the deciding factor, and because of that, Ryoko gets stabbed. Ryoko stabs him.
Yeah.
He almost dies for the fact that like he is ruining this for Yuki.
He
and I do think like the idea of like Yuki bringing Ryoko back as a protector is really interesting, because like Ryoko was like, I got fed up of waiting, so I decided to take drastic measures, and that's kind of exactly what Yuki did. She's like, I get you, girl. I understand.
No, for sure. It's like after Endless 8, she like can resonate with how Asakura feels, and brings her back to be like, I judged you too harshly. I treated you really unfairly when I killed you.
okay, but But
Yeah.
Kyon doesn't say, I liked it better the old way. He says, I liked you better the old way. I still think about the expression on her face when he says that and turns the gun on her. Like,
Yeah.
the Yuki of this universe has, like, been nothing but, like, absolutely sweet to him. Like, and there's, like, pretty clearly, like, a crush there, and, like, they're kind of, like, starting their own literature club type of thing. And, like, yeah. And like the whole time he's kind of like, so like, what's going on? Do you remember everything? Are you holding out on me, kind of thing? And she's like, and he's like, you're part of a data acquisition overmind, aren't you? And she's like, but not like she seems to like him, and I feel real bad because like, it almost feels like he's taking away her ability to, just have a real simple future with him that she seems to want.
Yeah, hang on. I'm getting the line here from the book. Because,
Yeah, I'm quoting
I'm
from the
really
anime.
curious
I'm
about
pretty
the
sure he
exact
says, "I
phrasing.
like you better the old way."
Oh. Interesting. Okay, so in the novel, he says sorry, and then he draws the picture, and he said everything should return to normal soon. We'll be able to go to all kinds of places together again. First would be the Christmas party with the Hawk Galore. After that, we can go to a winter villa or something, and you can play the role of the detective this time. Are you up for playing super detective who solves the mystery in the second it happens? And then Asakura comes in and stabs him.
Okay.
I kind of like I do
I like
prefer the
that
movie.
more.
Oh really?
I kind of like the novel because I like the symbolism of the anime of like he isn't he is not communicating like he is kind of
He's still being like selfish in like
Yeah.
some fashion to like where like it is still very much what he wants. Like he understands what she wants. He's saying no, but like we
Here's
can
the
do it
thing.
this way. Yeah.
He understands what she wants, but there's a scene earlier in the movie when he gets up all in Yuki's face, and he's like, "You're Yuki Nagato. I know everything about you," and then says all the things that she's done, all of her like accomplishments, but nothing about her as a person.
Yeah,
And
it's not like,
he's
oh, you
still-
like playing video games and like reading
Yeah.
books. It's like, you saved me from Asakura. You're an alien from the data overmind. It's like what she like objectively
Yeah.
is and like what she's
What she
done,
is,
but
but
not
not
who she is as a
Like,
person.
what she's done for him, even, like,
Which
which
is-
is a very like immature way of seeing people, and this is a great like moment of character growth for Kyon. But he's still, to an extent, kind of doing that. Is like, oh, but he is thinking about would she enjoy doing things like that in the novel, whereas in the movie he is just no, I liked it better the old way. Bang.
Yeah,
He is space
I liked
data
like the
overmind.
old you better.
Yeah.
You know, but
Which can be read
It
as
could
like
be,
I liked you just
but-
the way you were. Like you didn't need to change
terrible
anything. I'll
phrasing.
be there for you, but terrible phrasing.
yeah, and then like, you know, Ryoko stabs him, and then that leads to like the real resolution, which is like talking to Yuki and being like, "Hey, I could have helped you," and like understanding like his fault.
I think the stabbing scene. This might be. I've held out this long. This might be my Ryo Asakura bias, but my two favorite scenes in this film are like number 2, Kyon gets stabbed, and number 1, Asakura walks back into the classroom and like Kyon being like, "Oh my fucking god!" like freaking out.
It's so
Like
good.
the way that it shows you like
No,
a
it's so
little piece of
good.
Asakura at a
It's
time.
so
You kind of
good.
get it from. I can't remember exactly what they show you first. It's probably like a blue hair or something, but like you like. Yeah, but you haven't seen any like.
Yeah, it's like the
whole
back of her
it yet.
head.
Like this, yeah, like all these things. It's like, and it's interspersed with like, Crispin Freeman freaking out and like Kyon's face and stuff. Like that scene's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I think
No,
my
and just,
favorite
like-
scene is still the scene at the end, on the rooftop, where Kyoda's like, I understand the consequences of both of our decisions, and if anyone ever tries to take you away from
Yeah.
me, I will fight to get you back, and I'll get everyone in on it. I'll tell Haruhi everything, and she'll believe me. Like, just the most, like, positive and supportive thing Nagato's probably ever heard in her life. Like,
Yeah.
the knowledge that someone else in the universe, like, genuinely would do anything.
It is, but I also feel like it's probably
Like,
going to have to
yeah.
happen. Like, there probably will be an arc where the data overmind is like, all right, this is my chance.
Yeah.
Time to delete
I'm
Yuki,
really
and like,
scared.
and they have to go through a whole
What
thing
do you
to get
mean?
it back. That's what I'm guessing, because like,
Yuki could just, like, disassemble Asakura.
yeah,
And was just like, I have terminated your data connection, or whatever she says. And, like, she just gets Thanos snapped in the moment. Like, she just turns into, like, data and dust particles and, like, disappears. And she is made to be a transfer. And, like, the idea that that could happen to Yuki is horrifying. Like,
It sure is, isn't it?
yeah. I don't like the way you said that!
I've never said anything in any way.
Itsuki Lerf Sumi!
I will say this for people who are listening who haven't read the light novels but have enjoyed the anime. If you really like Disappearance and like the arc it had for like Yuki and Kyon and like the character growth, do read the novels. It like builds off of it in really good ways. Like it,
Even,
Haruhi
like, the
keeps its
direct
character
next novel.
development.
Like,
Direct next novel is like a direct follow up, and like don't even get me started on the football one.
the football one!
Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Yeah. No spoilers, but like if you love Yuki Nagato, keep reading Haruhi. Like pick up the books, do it right now.
we're 2 hours in.
All right. We're
Can I?
we've
We're deep in this. We're deep in this. If we
We're
need
deep in
theories,
this.
we need to start, like, now. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say we're like at the
is
2
everyone
hours, so
good on time for, like, another, like, half hour at most? Like,
I am.
I am.
The other option I was going to suggest is like, we could cut it here and do. You two could do a part 2
I can.
after Aya's read all the like the.
We
all
can
the
do a
books.
part
quite
2,
read
yeah.
all of them,
And you
but-
can-
Yeah, we could do it
You
wet.
could do your proper like spoiler
Yeah.
section.
Yeah, we could
that
do
could be
that.
fun.
Or like we could do part 2 where it's like your theories and I'm kind of like the
Ooh.
you
This
know,
is like the like baby.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Umineko babies. Yeah, like the baby reading Haruhi. I would love to do that
Yeah,
with you, Aya.
that would be super fun. To be like, this is where I'm at. I'm at like right now I'm at the end of Intrigues. I think I'm about to start Intuition or Indignation. I was done.
Yeah,
with
Indignation.
Intuition?
You just finished
Whatever.
Intrigues.
There's like
Intuition
4
is
books
like
that
really
are
late.
I something. It's,
Yeah.
it's Intrigue, Indignation, Intuition, Inspiration. That's not one of them.
Not one of them. But
Like,
yeah.
Interpolation.
It's so hard to keep track of them, but I know what happens in them.
Mhm.
So,
I think this is a good place to sign off, and then like
I
if
think
you
so,
do want to
too.
do like a theory episode, I am free for a long while.
yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, we could definitely do that. I would not mind at all.
All right, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Well,
Although-
if anyone, oh yeah,
I was gonna say maybe another time though, but
yeah.
it might be past Indignation by that point. So
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Ghost dog.
Hmm. But if no one has anything else to comment on in the Haruhi sphere, I think we're good to sign off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think so.
I've said most. Well, I haven't said even a little bit of what I want to say, but I can't because it's all like
Novel.
Haruhi is an eldritch god. Like
We'll get
there's
there. We'll
something
get
like
there.
that. We'll get there. We'll get there. Believe
All
you
right.
me, we'll get there.
We'll get there. All right, everyone. Thank you all for listening to the Haruhi Secret Tea Party. We hope you enjoyed your time here with us. And, yeah, farewell.
Kakite.
Yeah. We'll see you again
When something else cries.
when something else cries.